So welcome everyone for two Psalms for Life. And this is a class in which we explore a chapter from Tehillim each week. Sometimes we'll do one chapter over the course of a couple of weeks, as we are doing today. Thank you to Esther Elagorovich for sponsoring this class. It should be a merit and a source of bracha for her and her family. And may they be blessed with a sweet new year. May all of you be blessed with a sweet new year as well. Okay, today's psalm is a SEGULA for a journey, traveling, and also before meeting a government official. And once we explore this psalm, we'll begin to understand why. Now, when it comes to traveling on a journey, as we read this psalm, we can see that it's very much about the journey of life. And therefore, we can apply this psalm so directly to our own personal lives, as Rebbe Nachman tells us to do with every parak of Tehillim. But this one's very easy to grasp. I would like to say that this psalm is also a, if not quite a SEGULA, it's a psalm whose whole message is one of Rebbe Nachman's. There is no such thing as Yeush. There's no such thing as despair, meaning despair only lives where we let it live, inside us, okay? And our reaction to the world at large is the scaffolding upon which we hang either our despair or our hope. So that's our choice. It's a difficult choice sometimes. I'm not saying it's easy. Okay. Let's start with an overview. So there's going to be some politically incorrect language possibly today. Again, we're doing this psalm over the course of two classes. So David HaMelech, King David, questioned the idea in Koheles and Ecclesiastes that there's a season for everything, and he made everything beautiful in its proper time. It's actually two verses. So what was King David's question? His question was, Hashem, how is insanity beautiful? How is mental illness helpful? How could something like this have a place in your world? I see a question. Benita, this is Psalm 34. I'm sorry if I didn't mention it. So Hashem actually made a vow on David's life, and he said that someday he would need the insanity that he criticized. As Shlomo HaMelech said in Mishlei and Proverbs, he who despises something will be chastised by it or punished by it. And David said, Hashem, one day I vow, you are going to pray that I'm going to make you insane. So let's explore that a little more. What happened? Did it come to pass? Yes. A little while later, King David was fleeing from Shaul, who wanted to kill him. And he fled to the land of the Philistine, the Philistines. And his only weapon was the sword of Goliath, or Goliath in English, which he took after he slew the giant. Goliath's brothers were the bodyguards of the king of the Philistine, King Achish, who's referred to in this psalm as Avimelech. Okay, which is a term that can be used as a general term for a king. And this happened in the city of Gath. And these brothers saw that King David had their brother Goliath's, in English, his sword, and they asked King Achish for permission to kill David, and the king said yes. And David prayed to Hashem, help me. So here's what he asked for. an idea popped into his mind. He asked for the madness, the insanity which he once criticized. Now, as we read the psalm, it's a question as to whether David feigned insanity, as some commentators say, or whether he actually lost his grasp on reality for a while. Most agree that he did. He actually became insane, and he did a lot of things to provoke King Achish, one of which was he wrote on the wall, King Achish owes me 100 myriad coins, and his wife owes me 50 myriad coins. Okay, which is a provocative thing to say, that the king owed him money and that his wife owed him money. Now, we find as we go forward that King David also prayed for King Achish's wife and daughter to go insane. And we are taught by our sages that because if he feigned insanity compared to their insanity, he might not look so unwell, so mad, that therefore he asked that he actually be given authentic insanity, therefore to further his cause, which was to drive Achish out of his mind with people bothering him, especially his wife and daughter. Okay, like I said, this is not a politically correct story, but it often isn't in Psalms. Okay, so finally Achish said, I've had enough with crazy people. My wife and daughter are enough. I want you to drive David out of the city. Don't kill him. Just get him out. I don't want to fight. I don't want to battle. So they drew David out and he escapes. So that is the story, the history upon which this psalm is based. And David uses language that gives us the understanding that he's reflecting on this story. Sometimes it sounds like it's in the present, and sometimes it looks like he's reflecting on this story that recently happened. Okay. And that's often the case with Psalms. Very often, David speaks to us in first person present tense to let us know that this is immediate. And we should feel that immediacy in our own lives, because every single psalm is for us to find ourselves in. Okay, Rabbi Nachman says it, Chazal say it. That's what David did for us, the Jewish people. Okay, so also this psalm is an Aleph to Tav psalm, which means actually the first verse is an Aleph, but the second verse begins with Aleph and it goes to Tav, except the Hey and the Vav, 5 and 6, are in one verse together. When we get there, I will explain. Okay. So we will begin, and I have put it online today. Hopefully I'll be able to read better than from my Sefer. If not, I'll switch to the Sefer. LeDavid b'shanoso es ta'amo b'fnei Avimelech vaygarashehu vayelach. Of David, when he feigned or exhibited insanity before Avimelech, which I mentioned before was King Achish, whereupon Achish drove him out and David departed. Now, it's quite interesting that this has many meanings, this psalm, although we can happily read it at the simple level. But let's explore one of these meanings. Rebbe Nachman teaches a little mysticism here. He says that the Philistine, the Philistines, we know today who's borrowed that name. Okay, we won't say their name. That they personify the Sitra Achra, the other side, the side of evil, the side of darkness. And that by acting foolish, says Rebbe Nachman, we bring ourselves to joy, we kid around, we make joy, and through this joy, we can defeat each of us our spiritual enemies. Now, Rebbe Nachman was known for living what he spoke. He walked the walk. And he often would act foolish, a little bit meshuggah, okay? And when he was doing that, his followers knew that what he was doing was he was defeating the Sitra Achra. He was doing battle with it through his foolishness and his silliness, which would make him joyful. So I want to tell you a quick story. On his trip to Eretz Yisrael, Rebbe Nachman ran in the streets of Istanbul. I'm going to let that person in. It's a phone sign-in. Rebbe Nachman ran in the streets of Istanbul playing ball while Napoleon marched. And he played ball with the little children. And it is said that these silly, foolish games he played, he was even barefoot, some say, that he did this to change the course of the war. It's very interesting. Okay. Also, we know Purim. On Purim, we defeat Haman Amalek, our arch enemy, definitely the Sitra Achra. And we do this how? With foolishness, with drunkenness, with silliness, okay, which becomes joy. And this is what defeats the sun, says Rebbe Nachman, when we face evil, and this is a message from King David to us, when we face evil, whether internal, external, we should be a little foolish. We should lighten up, okay? We don't have to necessarily pray for insanity, as King David did, but we should lighten up and be a little foolish, tell a little joke, put a smile on our face, and this will defeat the sun. Okay, now let's continue. Let me see, I'm going to try for my safer. Avarecha es Adonai b'chol es tami tehilaso b'fi. Okay. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praises are always in my mouth, or his praise, actually, it's singular, is always in my mouth. David was running for his life, but he stopped and praised Hashem and blessed Hashem while he was running for his life. This is what he tells us. It's right in the beginning of the psalm. What does it mean to bless Hashem? It means that we recognize that Hashem is the source of everything. When we bless God, that's what we are acknowledging. And in the various formulas for the blessings, obviously we get more specific, but in general, we're acknowledging that God is the source of everything and we're thanking him. Okay. Now, Reb Nosson says that in every single moment, even moments where we are fleeing for our lives, even moments that are so filled with pressure, okay, we can, if we choose to pull our minds into focus, we can identify a point of Kedusha in those moments. We can look for Hashem in the obstacles, as Rebbe Nachman teaches. So David was able, fleeing for his life, to identify moments of holiness, to identify Hashem hiding in the obstacles, and he was able to bless Hashem. He was able to praise Hashem. And we have to train ourselves. Now, in the moment means that David is here referring to, again, to Koheles, about the 28 different eating, the 28 different times that I spoke about. And this, says our sages, is a vow from David to bless Hashem during all these times. Okay, time for life, time for the opposite, for everything. There is a season. You can read it. Okay. Now, this is also a beautiful commentary I found from a commentator, the Eretz HaChaim. He was in one of my collections. He says that after the words of blessing and praise leave my mouth, it says his praise is always in my mouth. It means that there's a sweet taste remaining. When we bless Hashem, we praise Hashem, there's a sweet taste in our mouths. What better thing could we do with our mouths? Okay, we could cheer up a Jew. We could boost up a Jew. We could give good, kind words to someone, put a smile on their face, and we can bless and praise Hashem. Okay, next. we are, again, for those of you who just signed in, we are going to try to get through about 11 of these today and the rest next week. Okay, so this is going to be divided into 2 classes. Hold on one second. Let's see. Badonai tishalel nafshi, yishmeu anavim v'yismachu. Okay. So, in Hashem does my soul glory. May the humble hear and rejoice. There are a few ways to translate this. I like this reflexive translation, okay? Because what it's saying that is here is that David's only glory, only kavod, only honor, only praise is his glory of Hashem. And that self-glorification is the opposite of what Torah tells us. Malbim explains that a mature person, a developed person, feels the essence of humility, and he feels that he has no worth whatsoever except what Hashem gives him or her. And what I want to tell you is this is not only not in conflict with self-esteem, it's essential to self-esteem to understand what our worth is. Because when we understand that our worth is something connected to Hashem, we understand our purpose, we can achieve in this world, and we don't get caught up with thinking our worth is our beauty, our wealth, our brains. All of those are gifts from Hashem, okay? This perspective that our entire worth, what's worth glorifying about ourselves, praising about ourselves, is to praise Hashem. This frees you to genuinely appreciate yourself and other people. Okay, if you've come to my Holy Self-Esteem workshops, my Azamra workshops, you've learned all this before. If not, I'll hopefully do another one at some point in the near future. Okay, also Rebbe Nachman explains the entire purpose of honor and glory in this world, which is to reveal the glory of Hashem. And that's what King David does beautifully in this psalm, and all the psalms, but in this psalm in particular right here. Okay, also Rambam, I just want to give you a Rambam, says that fools chase after personal honor and wealth and miss out on the glory of Hashem. Okay, that's a Rambam. Can't always slip in a Rambam. All right. Did I say yet this is my favorite psalm? Might not have said that. I say that every week, but okay, it really is one of my favorites. Okay, we're going on to Dalet. Gadalu ladonai iti unromama shemo yachdav. Okay, declare the greatness of the Lord with me, and let us elevate, exalt his name together. In general, and also because Hashem saved David from danger, and he did many miracles for him, David's saying, join me. Praise Hashem. Take a moment as we read this verse to think about the great things Hashem has done for you in your life. Not always so easy to think about, but that's what we're here for, to find ourselves in the psalm. Okay, let's see, we're up to Hey. Darashti es Adonai ve'anani umikol meguro sai hitzilani. Okay, I sought out the Lord, and he answered me, and he delivered me from all my terrors. Rebbe Nachman teaches, everybody knows this very famous verse because it's turned into a famous song. The world is a very narrow bridge, right? And we mustn't be afraid, but really the verse really could be translated as we mustn't make ourselves afraid. When we seek Hashem, the things we are doing to ourselves, the fear that we are enervating is a better word, enervating ourselves with, leaves because we're turning to Hashem. Every single human being faces the dark night of the soul, fear, anxiety, worry, like King David did throughout his whole life. He was constantly being chased. A whole bunch of people wanted to kill him and destroy him. Okay. We read that as our Yetzer Hara wants to chase us, wants to take us away from Hashem, wants to drag us down. But if we turn to Hashem for courage, we can cross that bridge. The bridge means many things. In general, Rabbi Nachman's referring to life from one end to the other, but it can mean many things throughout our lives. We could do a whole discussion on what the bridge means. Okay, next. Okay, this is the verse. I'm very excited about this verse. Okay. This is the verse that contains the Hey and the Vav. And I have a really surprising commentator. Okay. Hibitu elav v'naharu uvnehem al yechparu. Okay. They looked to him and they became radiant, and their faces will not be ashamed. Now, if you have your Sefer Tehillim in front of you, you will see that this verse begins with a Hey, the first phrase, and the second phrase, uvnehem, and their faces, begins with a Vav. And King David is hinting to us something here, that why would he put the Hey and the Vav in one verse when every other letter of the Aleph base has its own verse? So Rab Chaim Kanievsky says something beautiful. It's so delicious. He says, the Hey and the Vav are both represented here in the true phrases because both these things must be present at the same time to occur. They're two sides of the same coin. Becoming radiant, having holy, glowing countenance, and not being ashamed, but being humble, okay? There's a concept of humility, accepting humility, okay? These are two sides of the same coin. And when we are humble, that makes a room inside us for the glory of Hashem, which we mentioned previously in previous verses, okay? We can't truly have that understanding of where our own personal radiance comes from if we aren't humble. If we're not humble, there's no room for Hashem. Now, this is the work we're doing. We did in Elul, and we're still doing all the way through Yom Kippur. If you'd like to read Rebbe Nachman on this, it's Torah Vav, lesson 6 in Likutei Moharan. I encourage you to learn the lesson from the Kitzur Likutei Moharan, because the other one has a lot of very Kabbalistic things in it. But if you're into it, please go right ahead. I've learned both, and I find myself learning the Kitzur. It's a little more accessible. Okay. Anyway, I just love that. I found that very, very beautiful. Okay. We're up to Zion. Okay. Ze ani kara vadonai, shamea mikol, zarosa hoshio. This poor man called, and the Lord hears, and he saved him from all his troubles. Who's a poor man? Okay, so David always refers to himself as a poor man. He always says he's poor, ani, okay? I'm a poor person, I'm destitute. But King David was a king. He was very, very, very wealthy. And even when he was living in the palace and life was good and people weren't out to get him, he viewed himself as a poor person, okay? What does that mean? It means he viewed himself as humble, as truly worth nothing. He had nothing. He only had a connection, an opening for Hashem. Also, he viewed himself as spiritually poor. King David, who wrote Sefer Tehillim and redacted it, who was a tzaddik, he viewed himself as spiritually poor. What a lesson to us, to remain humble, to view ourselves, potential greatness for sure, but right now, spiritually poor. Hashem, help lift us up, okay? Help us reveal your kavod in this world. All right. Also, it says in this verse, Hashem Shameah. It says actually, the poor man calls and Hashem hears, okay? And that's, again, in a sense of immediacy, which means that in the moment, any kind of poor person calls, it can be the simple meaning, somebody who needs money. Whatever it is in the moment, we cry out to Hashem, Hashem hears us. Okay? It's a message to us. So don't forget to cry out to Hashem every day for whatever you need. We're all poor in something. All right. Let's continue. Okay. Kone malach Adonai, saviv l'reav, vaychalatzem. Okay. An angel of Hashem is stationed around those who fear him, and he saved them. So the Ibn Ezra explains that Hashem sent an angel to release David from Achish's men, the one who chased him, okay, and the bodyguards who were trying to kill him. Okay, he sent an angel. You know, angels are something that is going to be on our mind on Yom Kippur. We fast, and it says that we afflict ourselves and we become pure like angels on Yom Kippur. Okay, and this idea of something, an angel interacting, saving us, and so on, we have to keep in mind that that's a messenger, a malach, as it says here, from Hashem. They have no actions in their own right. But when we become an angel, when we become angelic, what does it mean? It means we are able to truly submit our will to Hashem. That's what purity is. Purity is when we are so aligned with Hashem that we don't want anything Hashem doesn't want. So we have something to look forward to on Yom Kippur. A very beautiful, beautiful, holy, holy yontif. Okay, let's see. Ta'amu uru ki tov Adonai ashrei hagever yechese bo. Contemplate or comprehend and see that Hashem is good, and praiseworthy is the person, the man who takes shelter in him. So Reb Nosson has a commentary on this. The shattering of the vessels, which everybody knows about, I hope. If not, please look it up. Our job is to redeem these lost sparks. And vis-a-vis this, Reb Nosson explains that it's the task of the Jewish people to engage these lost sparks and to engage in Torah and mitzvahs, especially by eating kosher food and making the proper brachos, blessings. And that is the embodiment, in a way, of this verse. When we become praiseworthy, it's because we are doing what Hashem wants from us. And for everybody, this means you start from where you're at. Nobody can start from where your neighbor's at, or where your friend's at, or where your teacher's at, or where your sister's at. You have to start from where you're at. This is the time, the 10 days of tshuva, to contemplate, say, how can I become more aligned with Hashem? How can I do that? Because that's really what tshuva is. Yes, we are, it's true, we're repenting for the past, but even more so, we're returning to Hashem. And returning to Hashem means we return to Hashem in love. And when we love someone, we want to do what they want to do. We become aligned. Okay, I'm going to continue. We're gonna get through this. Okay, brushing a little bit. Okay. Yiru es Adonai kedoshav ki ein machsor l're'av. It's a beautiful, beautiful verse. Fear Hashem, his holy ones, for there is no want for those who fear him. Okay. So let's translate Yiru, fear. Let's translate it as awe. Okay. So the Zohar explains, through the awe of Hashem, a person merits to have peace, to have shalom in this life. Internal peace, the peace where we are very, very sane inside, and we react to whatever's going on externally with equanimity, and external peace where we merit actually to have a more peaceful life in general. We don't have people chasing us, trying to drive us out of town like poor King David, okay? If you have strife in your life, I don't know anyone who doesn't have strife in their life, cultivate yiras Hashem, awe of Hashem, an appreciation, even with fear, an appreciation of Hashem's greatness. We also have to love Hashem. We have to have both. As the Baal HaTanya says, love and awe of Hashem are the two wings that lift the bird, that enable the dove to fly. Okay, we can't fly without both. However, many people forget about the awe of Hashem. Some people only have love of Hashem, and vice versa. Okay, everybody leans towards chesed or gevura. Wherever you lean, think about balancing yourself out. This is a great time of year to do that. Okay, so how do we have awe of Hashem? It's not just an emotion. It's not just a feeling. Okay, we have to express it by avoiding the things we should avoid. First and foremost, negative thoughts about ourselves, about our lives, and about other people. We have to rein those negative thoughts in. Avoiding them shows that we understand Hashem's greatness and that Hashem determines whatever's going on for us. Okay. So negative thoughts, negative speech, saying unkind words, negative words, God forbid, offensive words. We have to also avoid negative actions, actions that conflict with your holy neshama being in alignment with Hashem. Again, it's a very general description. Each of you understands that in your own way, but we can all, every single person, improve in this area. That's a Jew never sits still. A Jew never sits still. God forbid we shouldn't grow. Rabbi Nachman says, don't grow old. He says, learn something every day. Learn about yourself. Learn about your relationship with Hashem, and you won't grow old. Okay, we're going to continue. Another one of my favorite verses in all of Tehillim, the previous one also, such a poetry to it. Kifirim rashu v'ra'evu, v'dorshe Adonai lo yachseru chol tov. Young lions do want, they suffer lack, they want things, and they're hungry. But those who seek Hashem lack nothing good. They get everything, they lack nothing good. So what is this about? So on the simple level, David sought Hashem and he was answered. Okay. On another simple level, okay, young lions aren't guaranteed their food, their sustenance. But a person who clings to Hashem, even though it might not look it, Hashem always sustains him. He always has a parnasa. Might not be a millionaire, but he always manages to get by. Hashem gives him what he needs, okay? Hashem guarantees. Now, in the Aleph Beis book, this is so fantastic. It's from Rabbeinu Zal, from Rabbi Nachman. The Rebbe says that kefirim, young lions, refers to kefira, which is heresy or atheism, okay? And the rejection of Hashem and Torah eventually lead to poverty. Now, they will lead to material poverty at some point. And we know that if nothing else, as my husband always says, there's no pockets in Tachricha. There's no pockets in your burial shrouds. So at some point, we're all separated from whatever material stuff we have, okay? Should be not until everybody is 120 or beyond. Okay. Now, the other kind of poverty, when a person doesn't, he doesn't seek Hashem, as the verse says. The other kind of poverty is a spiritual poverty. It's an emotional poverty. It's a person who goes through life feeling like, I need status, I need power, I need glory. A person who takes rejection so personally, a person who suffers from other people, okay, who can't face the world with equanimity, it's a very great suffering. Emotional suffering, perhaps the greatest suffering there is, perhaps. It's right up there. So when we seek Hashem, when we chase after Hashem, we lack no good. We get all good, okay, because we're at peace inside ourselves. Okay, now the Cherna Rav expands on Rabbi Nachman's teaching, and he says that we should read the word vere'evu in the verse, will go hungry. We should read it like to feel hunger. And this hints that anybody who feels some lack in their lives, whether material or emotional, who wants to have a tikkun, okay, wants to rectify that lack, should make sure that the seekers, that those who seek Hashem, those they know who seek Hashem, aren't lacking any good. And that person should support them. As Rabbi Nachman says, okay, Rabbi Nachman says, if you don't have, finances are hard, you only have a little bit of money, get rid of it, give it away. You're going to make room for a lot of brachos in your life. It's a very hard avoda, but it can be done. I know it can be done. So the idea is we have to, whatever lack we feel, we have to give to those who are genuine seekers of Hashem. And God willing, we all know genuine seekers of Hashem. And God willing, we're all genuine seekers of Hashem. Okay.